You know, each environment seems to have its own peculiarities. I mean, one of the things that has come to the fore is our culture. I mean, it would seem that the culture has not been, or our culture, most cultures, especially in Africa, have not been exactly favorable to African women. And one wonders if this International Day for eliminating violence against women does do anything. Do you think it will beginning to chip against, at least chipping at cultural, exactly, barriers, albeit very gradually? Is it working?
Yes, it is working, because it's not just in the city centers that we are there. We're going to the grassroots area to let them know that these cultural biases, this traditional mindset that they have, that it's not proper, it's not right, because we're becoming now into a huge global village. It's no more centered into the village. The villager has children, they come into the city, and when they come in like that, some are fortunate enough to go to school, polytechnics and everything, and they could just meet the daughter or son of one or two supposed city people, and they're going to have that same mindset. So they're going into the rural areas, because it's very strange that even those that you think should know better, educated, exposed, you find that they don't really know what their rights are when it comes to standing up against violence in whatever form.
What has been the reception? I mean, let's look at our laws, for instance. You talked about laws not being implemented. Do you think a lot is changing? Recently, I was listening to something on women on violence against women, pardon. And one thing that came to the fore was someone was suggesting that we should have a special arm of the police dedicated to just listening to such cases. That even the front we have, I mean, the desk to listen to such cases, sounds indifferent sometimes, and it would seem that nothing really is changing. When a woman is not received properly or warmly, or with some understanding, chances are that nobody wants to go through that kind of harrowing experience to relay what she's been through already.
Well, gradually, like everything, change takes time. Like my other side is I'm a transformation strategist, life transformation strategist, putting in trainings and workshops to realign the mind. So change, one thing I believe all the time is change is imminent. That's one constant. And once people become aware of something that is not proper, it might take time, but inevitably, eventually it will. One thing, there's a law in Lagos State, thank God, against domestic violence, very clear, and the Lagos State government, the Women's Affairs Ministry is very solid. They have intervention programs, they have counseling programs, and I work, with them when I come against certain slightly dangerous situations. I quickly use the instrument that is there, because I say don't work in isolation. We should all work together. Now, while we've talked about the police station having a separate desk, because you see, people have gone there and they have used their own mindset to deal with violence. In fact, I am aware that we have been having some trainings for the security arm, that no matter what your cultural biases are, no matter where you're coming from, when you don that uniform and you go into that place, you dump your cultural biases or your perception, and you deal with each person as the law states. And the law states that you must protect every individual, male, female, child, once they come in to report any form of assault against your person. But while we are saying that they should have a separate gender-based desk, because it's not only women, it's just that...
Well, that's something you're definitely pushing.
Yes, we're pushing for that, so that they will be trained on how to deal with the person who comes in traumatized. You can't deal with that person the same way another kind of situation, because this is an emotional issue. It's an innate issue. So they have to be trained on how to approach them, because the first thing you do is to make them calm, and they must be made to feel at ease.
And that's very important.
It's very important. They must know that they have help there, because sometimes the fact that you are even able to listen to them, empathize with them, they're already feeling that somebody understands what I'm going
Do
through.
you think we should also be working, Sarah Marpa, we should also be working with the security operatives on this? Because a couple of times, specifically the police, some people approach them, some have been helped, and they get to a point and the same victim tells them, I want out. I don't want you to go on with this. Because I have a case where someone approached me and the police authorities took it up, but it got to a point, she said she wanted out. And some other times they go to the police and they go, this is not family matter, you guys should go home and settle this thing.
That's it. The police will say this is family matter. That's why we say no. Once it's a criminal offense and assault, they must deal with it and try to find a way around it. Now, the one you say about they've gone in and suddenly they change their mind, we go through that.
All the time?
This cultural biases, yes, this cultural thing, and fear, stigmatization, and she wants to go forward, and they begin talking to her, how can you settle this matter, this, that, and the, and before you know it, the same person now withdraws. And it's unfortunate because if domestic violence is not handled properly, it's going to carry on. It's not when the man says, I'm sorry, because he himself is cracked. That's why I say the abused and the abuser, both of them need help. And rape cases, we start a process and you find that suddenly they're backing out. Sometimes fear, maybe they have been threatened, or the parents, if it's young, that go and tell your daughter to come, don't do this or else we will deal with all of you. So that's why I said it's important that the law is not circumvented. The law must be made to go through the process.
How bad is the issue of stigmatization? Is it beginning to change?
It's beginning to change now, but like everything else, when you think, because of our culture here, that if a man knows that you have been raped, your ability to get a husband might be diminished, because it's already been programmed into the man's mind. Unlike our own counterparts abroad, rather than being programmed as negative, the victim, the perpetrator is seen as the victim. I keep telling, whenever they call and I'm talking to them or I see them, the first thing I say, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. In fact, talking about rape, you stood up to protect yourself. But
just quickly, I know we're already out of time. If a woman has been abused, it's International Day for eliminating violence against women, what would you advise that she does?
Depending on the level, if it's a start-off point, we could move in intervention to talk to the both parties and try to see if we can help them. Because the first onus is not to break up the marriage. It's to try to find a midpoint. But if it's quite dangerous, we'll advise that she leaves that position and we'll see what to do, because the essence is to protect life. And the corporate bodies should really look into this and allow us to come in and train the staff, because a lot of violence is going on in the corporate body and they don't realize that it's affecting the peak performance as well as eroding on the financial aspect, because a lot of medical bills that come up, it's through domestic violence.
Well, Leila St. Matthew Daniels would like to thank you for joining us this morning. She's a life transformation strategist and emotions therapist. Well, so as Dilla takes another moment, we'll be back. Stay with us.